Hey, Paul here, part 6, and as it's customary to say in the beginning of each of these videos, I hope it's the last part. And yeah, this time I really hope it's the last part because we are out of object quota so far. And to be honest, what I realized today is not a starter template anymore. It's an illustration doc to showcase all the best practices. I'm still kind of happy that I recorded these videos for you because right now it's the one, well, not, wanted to say concentrated, but not so concentrated. It's like 6 hours after all of video content. But it's like one place where I'm describing all the fundamental best practices about building Coda docs. I'm trying to talk about why these are important, why these are the best practices, what are the implications of doing this way or not doing this way. And well, I've heard some feedback already for these videos that people are really learning a lot and these are very helpful overall. So it's not in vain, even though in the end we don't get the starter template that one can take and just copy and build upon. Because, well, I tried recently to take this starter template and make a copy of it and use it as a foundation to build one of my own docs, and I just found myself frustratingly deleting everything that we worked on here. I don't need most of the tables here. I just kind of need a few pages there, a few folder pages, and maybe the flows. I didn't even need the flows table because I was building a doc for myself only. So in a way, it failed its purpose, but on the other hand, it transcended its purpose. It's now a doc, really an illustration that I'll take screenshots of and put on my blog, and a doc that I can actually share and show, okay, here are the ways of doing this, of doing that, here's how you should do it. Here are the modern and bulletproof approaches. Um, what I recently realized, what I want to do, I know that in the beginning I promised that I'm gonna make these videos public, but the template itself I won't make it public. It will be a Patreon exclusive. What I think is, well, given that the videos are going to be out and the blog article is going to be out, it's not really, well, it's not really in a good spirit, so to say, to withhold the document itself and say, okay, just because I want people to force to come to Patreon to get the doc, I'm making the doc a paywall thing. Sorry. Um, so I decided that this thing that we are building here, that I'm building here, I'm gonna make it public as well. So let everyone look at how this doc is built, how everything's organized, how everything's connected. And for patrons, I'm gonna take this doc and strip it off all the clutter, because after all, there should be a starter template. So it's gonna be a doc, a continuation of this build that we are doing here, but I'll remove all the things that we don't need in a starter doc, like all these tasks and projects, etc. It's served its purpose as an illustration, well, not everyone needs tasks and projects in their own docs, so I'll probably remove that. And I was thinking of a few improvements on the design. They are beyond the fundamentals. I don't necessarily want to record tutorials on that and talk about that. These are just maybe some pieces of black magic to do certain things. But these are helpful, like really helpful in a starter template. And also, maybe you, if you are my patron, or you are not my patron, but maybe you will eventually be my patron. And I think it's a good time to just make a shout out to all my patrons at the moment. Thank you everyone for supporting me through making more content, stepping down from consulting and making more content like this for everyone to benefit from. So just a sec, let me cough a bit. I feel like coughing jump cut. Okay, I hope that the audio is not screwed up at this point, because last few videos were got really screwed up audio. I'm deeply sorry for that. Anyway, so yeah, the Patreon is here. Please subscribe if you'd like to support my if you'd like to support me making more educational content about Coda, and also get some perks like access to some premium materials, premium deep dives, premium docs that are not yet there, but they will be added because I just started out. So it's understandable if you are not ready yet to jump onto my Patreon, but maybe by the time that you watch this video you will be, and there will be much more content present already for you to learn from. Okay, back to our starter template. We have, I give myself something like 40 minutes to get this over with. I still need to add grouping and sorting, and I still need to do things like assigning tasks to a different team and a different person. So in a way we have this assigned to interface when we are adding a new task, and also we are over the doc size. So I need to kind of, I thought of what, I had a few ideas of what I should do with this doc. So I had one idea, I should keep it as is and move it into a paid workspace. And idea number two was strip it down of some things and make a community or a free plan variant of this template to share. Maybe share either that one for people who are on a free plan, and share another one for people who are on a pro or on a team plan or on an enterprise plan. But I think that we have some room to actually reduce the size. So first of all, there's 4 pages that I just added here in the bottom where my face is, just so that you see the whole structure. So okay, I'm not gonna so there's 4 elements already to delete for me. So maybe this way it's more visible. So there's the database. Oh no, they are top level ones. But still, so there's Untitled 1, Untitled 2, Untitled 3, Untitled 4. So here you may see them. So that's 4 objects. We are currently 5 objects over the limit. So another thing that, well, we have this manage project and tasks, and I've never actually built anything beyond the manage project. So maybe just make it a top level, give it another icon, and delete one page altogether. So we are already within our limit. We just have to, I still need to add one helper table, which is 1 page and 1 view. What we can do further, what we can do further, oh, it's new. You can now reorder here. Never seen this. You can reorder items in the details view. I guess it's new. What else? So yeah, move a project from I mean, move each task, change the team responsible and side to. So what we can do also, but I really don't like doing this. We could put all helper tables, since they are very small. It doesn't hurt to have a few of them on the same page. We could put these tables on just the helpers page, but I don't really like. I wouldn't do that. I still like the idea of keeping 1 table per page. In very rare occasions, I'll put multiple tables on a single page, and that would be only when I need, for instance, there's the tasks table, and I need to make some sort of, well, maybe I want to make an iterator table. By the way, if you don't remember what I'm talking about, the And again, let me just find it. There's the whole tutorial on iterator tables. So I came up with this approach as the workaround for current value issues. Now we have the with name formula for avoiding that, but it's still sometimes it makes sense to have separate iterator tables. So first of all, with name doesn't always it still has some bugs in it. It doesn't always preserve the current value context. So with action especially, you still have bugs there time to time. So it's not 100% reliable to use that. In expressions, in your column formulas, yes, by all means use with name. With actions, be cautious because sometimes this won't work. Sometimes there are actually bugs with that. And yeah, I reported them to Coda, and other community champions reported them to Coda. They are being worked on. That's all I can say. So yeah, there's this approach of making iterator tables where you have a table that has an action. So basically the same kind of a helper table, only that its purpose is to go over a collection of items and perform some logic on each item from a collection. And whenever I have that, sometimes I put these iterator tables right above the actual table. So let's say I have an iterator table that goes over each tasks and maybe stamps the status or copies something from one column to another, and I don't want to have a button on each row doing that. I put an iterator table in the top, and well, a person on a team knows that they need to go there and perhaps click that button once in a week or once in a month to do maintenance on this table. So yeah, the purpose of those are maintenance on these tables. So that's the only way, that's the only time when I would put multiple tables on the same page. So I don't really want to use that small table, that helper table, outside of this page. It's not a database, it's something that does maintenance on the database. Okay, took too much time to talk about that. Yeah, so that's why I wouldn't touch these. However, we have too many folders for what seems like too few tables. So I think we can do things like definitions. We can put template tasks along the definitions because, well, why not? These are just template tasks. We can combine them with some metadata about the doc. So already we don't need templates, perhaps here. And let me just tell you again that the structure here is not strict. I mean, you can use, you don't have to use the definitions, workflows, theme, whatever. You choose the folders yourself, whatever makes sense for your setup. So it's not like I'm setting you some default folders here. It's not like the conventional setup. It's just some grouping that I came up with for this particular doc. And if you don't have many tables, you don't have to use these folders at all. I mean, it just makes easier. So let's say I'm moving all the time. I'm currently working on some helper table, so I need to set up an add a task button. And when I have a huge list of things here, I need to always scroll down, scroll up to move between pages. And with folders, I kind of can collapse these things and I have everything nicely on one screen to move between. So that's the only reason to do this grouping, really, to just visual aid for yourself. Otherwise, I mean, you can have omit the folders, again. These are pages. I just gave them an icon of a folder, and I'm putting nothing else on these. So we can easily reduce the number of objects in this doc by simply getting rid of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folders and put everything just under the database table, whatever, right? So these are not, this is just another illustration of a best practice. Okay, 15 minutes into the video, I haven't yet made a single thing. So one thing that's left on our to-do list for this doc is to, yeah, so I don't like these R1, R2, R3 here, so we don't really have a project description, but let's maybe have it, whatever. This wouldn't hurt to have a description. And project name, I guess we could have it renamed to title, so description, very short jump cut for me to fill these in with something that makes sense. Oh well, I'm kind of talking here for 20 minutes now or something, and I forgot to get myself off the pause. So yeah, okay, back. Let me retrace what I was saying for the last few minutes while the video was paused. Okay, so what I tried doing just now, I decided that it's easier to just to just start over, delete all the projects here, and because, well, there's really no way for us to add missing tasks now, right? We don't have that button to fill in missing tasks anymore, so I don't feel like making yet another set of tasks here, and we already have these row IDs screwed up, so if we start over row 14, I guess it's not nice. I'm a perfectionist, I would hate that. That the row IDs start from 14 and not from 1, but okay, I just go and delete this data. And when I did that, I realized that we now ran into a very common problem: orphaned rows. So we deleted the projects rows, but we never deleted the tasks rows, right? So we have a lot of tasks in our database which are now basically invalid because they are connected to projects that have been deleted. And if we go into my tasks and perhaps undo the filters, we'll see still all these tasks. We can set a filter on them, of course, to filter out all the tasks. Like, let's say, maybe let's add a separate filter where project is from table. Well, it's important to also, that's a trick for you. I know I'm so red. Perhaps it's the ginger beer that I've had. Anyway, and I also hope that the audio is not screwed up again. I'm sorry for having this. I don't know what's happening. The audio is screwed up for the last few videos. So yeah, if you do filter by project is blank, or well, is not blank, it's not gonna filter out these things. So you will see that these things are still not blank. They're still row references. They are broken, but these are not blank. So trying to filter this by project is blank or not blank will not work. That's just a thing for you to know. Not that we need it. A proper idiom to filter out invalid references, broken references, references to the docs. And by the way, did you know that this reference still lives on for another 12 hours or something? So you can click restore row and it added that project back. It was not really deleted, it was just marked for deletion. And it's still in the doc. That's why if you delete a lot of data from your doc that some other records may still have references on, you will not see the reduction of doc size immediately. You'll only see it in a day or in half a day, in 12 hours. That's what Codans have told me. That these rows, they still live on for another 12 hours or more, or maybe 12 hours or less, I don't remember actually. But after those 12 hours, you will not see the restore row button here anymore. There will be another button prompting you to add a row and relink relink the reference, but it won't be the same row anymore. It will be like a new row with a new ID, and perhaps all the information that used to be there will not be restored into that row. So that's a thing for you to know. Back to the what to do with these broken references. So for that, you're using an idiom is from table. And you select, of course, in our case, it's from DB projects. And now, okay, let's go back and maybe restore our Codepedia. And now you will see that, okay, Codepedia is not filtered out. 8 rows out of 60 rows are displayed because in these rows project is actually a row from DB projects, and in other rows it's not. I mean, it's a broken references, it's not blank, but it's not from table DB project. So that's a way to check, to filter out broken references. Yeah. But we shall not have them at all. So what are the strategies of dealing with these broken references? So one of the strategies here, and that's what I used to do early in my consulting days, and that's what most people using Coda would do. They would add a button to delete a project, and then they would set this button, maybe make it red, of course, add some nice trash can icon, trash can icon, and what they would do, they would write a run actions, and here's a piece of magic. Look what Codance did. When I press Shift Enter, it now automatically adds 2 spaces. It automatically indents my formula. My prayers have been heard. They haven't yet announced this anywhere, but well, it's huge. I now run this row, modify rows, and I don't have to press spaces anymore. Shift Enter properly indented with 2 spaces, like I was saying was an optimal number of spaces. So I'm super excited that fewer of these things for me now. So super happy that it's in the formula editor. So so far it's the only change. When I paused this video, forgot to turn it on again. I checked what else I could do. Unfortunately, no lines, no automatic new lines for now. I didn't see any other improvements. The size of the editor is still as is, but baby steps. I'm still super excited for this auto idents. Let me just make a very short jump cut and share this with my precious Slack and team champions, and well, because it's huge. Okay, recording. Back to our recording. Oh, sorry for that. Yeah. All right. So yeah, what would people do normally, right? And now it's gonna take a while for me to get out of the habit of automatically shift enter into spaces. So now I'm gonna struggle for a while. So what they would do, this row, tasks, delete rows. And then finally this row, delete rows. And there's another thing to know here is that this won't work. This won't work on its own, even though, well, you can actually take a collection of rows and run delete rows on it. So in this case, so okay, this gives us an error. What would people normally do? They would try and work around this with a similar filter. So db tasks, filter current value in this row tasks, and delete rows, and this would work because this is a valid formula now. So but this means that we are doing some double work, because we have already filtered DB tasks to get these tasks here, or they would not write it like this. They would perhaps just copy the filter that they have in here. So filter project equals this row, perhaps easier, but well, maybe current value in this collection. So this is basically running a filter again, and even though it's valid in this way, it's really unnecessary. So one of community users, I don't remember who exactly, one of the older ones, discovered that even though this row tasks delete rows is invalid and will not work because it's like an arbitrary list of things. For some reason the formula editor thinks that it's not a list of rows from a given table. If you run a filter true, which basically says run through all items and in the collection and filter out nothing, keep everything, so return a list that's the same as the list of this task. For some reason, in the result of the filter, it will return a differently typed, a sort of a subtable type of thing. This is just a list of rows, and this is basically a subtable. So again, it returns a list of rows, but in a way, it's a bit different underneath. In that regard, that it doesn't trigger the error. So it changes nothing, but it doesn't trigger the error. So when you click the delete, this now works. And in a way, this is valid because, well, you made yourself a delete button, you set it up, you probably surface it somewhere else, and you prompt your users to, when you want to delete a project, not to go in here, but click a button to delete the project. And well, it's a valid approach, right? So you call it delete. You may have something like, do you really want to delete this row, by setting up also a pop-up or maybe a helper table that shows up, and you have another button in there that you have to click to actually delete the project. But in a way, it also often happens that you don't normally delete projects, so you don't really need a separate button for that. And well, sometimes it just happens that people go and delete the rows either unintentionally, or they delete the rows. Well, I cannot really find a good rationale behind not using the delete button, but it often happens that, well, it's something that adds complexity to the system. I mean, people need to remember to go and click delete, and they usually won't. So there's still gonna be a human error there. They'll just go and delete the row from the table and forget that there's some further cleanup that needs to be done. So what I do for that, and again, we are gonna add more pages, I guess. So I have something in my doc, and not on the database, but something on the UI side of things, is I have maintenance views, or just maintenance part of the doc, and or an admin part, you could say it. And if I weren't on the free plan with this doc, I would probably hide it. So I would make it a hidden section, a hidden page, so that only doc admins can go find it and can go work with it. And I would add a sub page here, for instance, to clean up some other, I can clean up orphaned items. And what I would perhaps have a view of DB tasks, for instance, or tasks. Tasks without a project, filter these for project is blank, or project is is from table db projects not, and this shows us a list of all orphan tasks for review. And yeah, and what I would do then, and again, I perhaps forgot to show some columns in here, and when I show, so it's a very good practice to not forget show up all the columns that you add elsewhere. You can add them elsewhere in the doc. I mean, they are added to the base table as well. It's not like when you're adding a column to a view, you get a like a column that's specific to that view, that's unique to that view. No, it's added to the base table. They are just hidden by default in other instances of the same table or the same view. So I would usually, yeah, I would first put them together so that the input column and the output, the read-only column, are close to each other. Also, when you unhide these columns in a different view, what they become unwrapped. So you need to select wrap text so that you can see all the content that's in the column. Okay, back to our. So yeah, it's a very good rule of thumb is to always check whether all tables in the database don't have hidden columns, because, well, it's easy to then overlook that some columns were already added and you may add them again, or you may not see the whole picture. So it's important. Some people like to filter on base tables, because when you filter on a base table, that basically that doesn't affect any formulas trying to read from that table. Because when you add a filter on a view, like here, we've added a filter on a view, and now if we try and take, for instance, a task without a project count, it's gonna say 52 items that are not filtered. If I delete the filter, it's gonna be 60, right? So when you read from a view, it always returns only the subset of rows that's filtered out. And when you do the same on the tasks table, let me try add this. So db tasks count, right? So it's 60. When I add some filter here, for instance, project is not blank, or I don't know, is from table db projects, and it's only 8 rows shown here, still says 60 here, because when you're reading from a base table, it always takes the full data set of all rows. So that's why some people like adding filters in here, and because it doesn't matter for the rest of the doc, they would go add filters, like filter for a specific project, filter for something. And in a way, it's okay, because it's a doc builder's view, and the doc builder knows what they're doing. But what they would often do, and that's mostly, I'm talking about my clients who often do that, they would just leave that filter on that table and go do something else. So if you do this, you filter here, make sure that you clean up after yourself, because when another person goes onto your doc and only sees 8 rows, what they immediately assume is that nothing is really filtered. Because to see that this is to see that this here is blue, which means that there is a filter, right? So let's say is done, checked. So let's say a doc builder goes onto DB project, DB tasks. It takes some time to hover and actually see that there is a filter, and 54 items are filtered out. But at a glance, you go to a page and you see, okay, there's just 6 tasks. What happened? Why is there only 6 tasks? So it takes another. It confuses you, it stumbles you, and it takes another step to go put a mouse over and see that, okay, there is the filter, everything's okay, there's lots of data, just that someone forgot to remove the filter from there. So that's why I'm saying that these tables should always be kept unfiltered, ideally unsorted, no columns should be hidden. You will thank yourself, and your other doc maintainers will thank you, and you will thank them if you stick to this simple rule. You may have In some instances, conditional formatting on these if you want to reuse that over all views that you have on this table, or it makes sense to keep that conditional formatting on the base table that you want to reuse. Like here for the assigned to options, we added formatting to match the color of DB flows, and wherever we are using views of DB flows, we want to have this this background, right? So that's why we added conditional formatting on the base table itself. But beyond that, please keep them as bare bones. Don't make them a chart, don't make them cards, details, whatever. It's very hard to work with the data in a different display than a table. A table is the most convenient way to work with the data for a doc maintainer, especially the one who used to have database experience. And then when you do that, please, to your heart's desire, go make any kinds of charts that you want throughout the rest of the doc. Make any kinds of whatever detail layouts and whatnot through the rest of your doc. Again, it feels like I'm just reiterating things from part 1. So in a way, it's a recap here, the part 6, 36 minutes into part 6, and I still haven't done the grouping and sorting. Okay, clean up orphaned items. And what I would do, of course, I would add a button here to clean up orphaned items, and the action would be perhaps run actions, because, perhaps it would be run actions because normally there's gonna be more things dependent. Like on a project, there's tasks, there's maybe time logs, checklists, something. So there's gonna be more than one table where you have orphaned items. Right now it's just one table, so we can have something like tasks without a project. We don't need to again reference the base table anymore. We can just use this view below. Delete rows, everything from tasks without a project, delete, clean up orphaned items. And what I could also do sometimes in our label, I would make it a format, make it a clean up orphaned tasks. Clean up orphaned tasks, and 2 orphaned something else, and 3 something else, 4 something else. So as many tables as we have in here, I would just for my own information list the whole. So I would have task without a project count. So clean up, and again, don't forget to do to text here. And of course, it's also either maybe orange or whatever color, or do we have a clean? We should have an icon, something like that. So clean up for 52 orphan tasks. And since we have that, we can also make these smaller collapse things so that when you need to review, you can open it up, and when you don't need to review, then you close. Well, it's closed for you. So 57. Okay. And of course, you can also set up automation to click this button maybe once a day, maybe once an hour, well, so, or just have someone look into this page and click this for you whenever it feels like, like you need to click this. Or you can set up automation to clean up whenever something changes on the projects table or whatnot. But that's what I usually do, because and also you can have both, right? So you can have both the item. So let's say you assume that things will get deleted. Even though I believe that it's a bad practice to delete rows from the doc. It's a bad practice because you're losing valuable historic information about, so someone perhaps worked on these tasks, someone logged time on these tasks. And if you delete rows, you basically maybe you're gonna underpay employees. Maybe you're calculating their revenue, their cost of services in the end of each period, and you are taking the number of hours they've logged towards all the tasks. And if you delete rows, you're essentially losing that information. So it's better in that case to not delete entries, but to just mark them as deleted. Maybe have a flag here, may have a checkbox saying is deleted, so it's obsolete. And your delete button then will just, this row modify rows is deleted true. And then when you want to filter out projects, you can then on a projects table you may let's have this button in here, the delete project. So yeah, and description, we forgot about our nice description, and we may use a different layout for that. So we have a title here. Let's have it labeled top. It shows top, it says top, but it's a bug. You have to recheck it to be on the top. And you have a description here, and maybe a delete button here. You have a description again in the header section. Make it font standard and label top. You have to recheck these again because there's a bug in Coda that prevents that. And delete, well, put it on the right alignment and something like that. And set a filter to is deleted false. So don't show projects that are deleted, even though they are not really deleted. So you may actually disregard, deprecate project. Is hidden, let's say it's hidden. And for tasks, you can either have a checkbox or you can simply set your filter here to and project is hidden false. Again, the formula editor wants to give you a function that returns false. You just may type false without the brackets. Works just as fine. So that's how you kind of delete projects, right? Instead of actually deleting them. But still, it may happen time to time that people will delete projects without actually yeah. So we have our tasks, and we've cleaned up all the orphaned tasks now, and let's say they go and delete Codapedia. So how do we restore it? There's currently no action to restore it. So I guess the only way that you can actually restore things automatically instead of cleaning up orphan things is to, well, now we have a log, and we have log entries, right? So one of the things that we can do, we can alert a doc maintainer or someone who's responsible for the doc. We can tell them to go into the log table, because even if the orphan tasks are deleted or whatever, there's still going to be one place where the reference to a given project is saved. It's the log entries table. So if we don't save this object here and we just remove all references, that we really don't have anywhere to click to restore the row. So I guess it goes into oblivion much faster than in those 12 hours. It's deleted immediately if there are no references left to it. Or maybe not. Maybe it's still not deleted from the doc, but I know for sure that if there are references, you will be given this option to restore a row. If there are no references left in the system for the rows, then, well, all you have is undo, and it may work, it may not work. If you reload the doc, the history may be cleared. It's not like it's in a universal history. It's a history of your changes in a current session on this doc. So, but by this you have now, for instance, you have like test project, we can restore it now. And if we had a reference to all the tasks, we could restore those either. So yeah, another thing that might make sense is stamping the tasks for each project. So you restore the row, you restore the project, and you can also restore all the tasks. And actually that also, we could add this to this template doc. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but okay, let's say we have here a tasks stamped column, and I will probably record a separate video sometimes on stamping, because it's a very powerful technique that helps improve doc performance in many cases, reduce the amount of unnecessary recalculations. But the idea here basically is that you have a button or an iterator table. So stamp tasks, what it does is that on DB projects, for each row, you update current value, you update a row, tasks stamped, you copy a value of current value, tasks. Yeah, the column type should perhaps be a DB tasks lookup, and again, don't forget to make it a multi-selection lookup. Yeah, and now if we delete the Codepedia and we clean up all the orphaned tasks, right? And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it doesn't work like that. I'm just speculating, and I hope that it works like I'm expecting it to work. Wait, so what was the project? What was the project again? So Codepedia, right? Do we have it somewhere in our log entries, the Codepedia? Okay, we have a Codepedia test task, right? So it's a part of Codepedia project. So let's see if it deletes by association. I deleted the project. I cleaned up 8 tasks. I still have, well, I don't have the Codepedia here, but I have a Codepedia test task. Let me restore the task. I restore the project. And now in our project, I can restore each of the tasks, basically. And this one, well, it just didn't update this, perhaps. Yeah. And that's how we found the problem, and the doc just crashed. Will it crash again? It might crash again. Yeah, that's how we from just one small straw, right? From one small reference to either of the tasks or either of the project entries, we were able to recreate the project and recreate the references in this project, all the tasks for this project, by keeping a reference to it somewhere, in our case in the log entries table. So that's one of the reasons why I told you to keep a reference, not just place a text, the message or log message, what happened on that date and time with what, not just the description of what happened, but also keep a reference to an object that you've made that modification on. So that's something to also keep in mind. yeah, will I do these grouping and sorting? Do we need this at all? So there's like 10 minutes left, and there's so much to talk about. Like I'm remembering so many things after having this ginger beer here. Not gonna show it on the camera because, well, I will get demonetized. It's not like I'm getting any revenue from YouTube anymore. Anyway, but also no one paid me for the promotion. So yeah, even though it's a very good ginger beer, I really like it. Um, yeah. So yeah, clean up orphaned items. So in a way, there is no automated way to restore orphaned items or restore references, and maybe that's what you should be aiming to do. Instead of cleaning up, you restore things instead of deleting things. You keep them in your database. You maybe reduce some calculations on these things, or you stamp things into some other table. But well, it's important to remember that think twice before deleting any data or deciding that you can delete some data. You will not be able to easily restore it from doc history. So at least maybe copy it into a Google Sheet or into a different Coda doc, or set up some cross doc to do archiving. Archiving is again a very separate topic, a very complicated topic that's out of the scope of these tutorials here. But yeah, when your dogs grow and your whole business relies on your setup of dogs, there's some certain limits that you can only grow into, and eventually you need to delete old entries and do it in a way that doesn't affect the summaries. Like you're calculating some summaries, all the time spent on the task. You want to be able to delete the tasks without affecting like employees' performance indices or something. So that's the by the time you should understand that it's more complicated than it meets the eye, right? Building these docs, well, it's simple if you're doing simple things, but then again, if it's a piece of software that you're using day to day, if you're building yourself a piece of software and you want it to be solid to help your business for a while, you need to, all these things, they matter. You need to take care of these things. That's why it's frankly, it's not that cheap to make good Coda docs. That's why I was doing consulting on the rates that are higher than software engineering rates, perhaps because all this and hopefully you will, because well, I'm recording these videos so that you can help yourselves. You can build these docs for yourself if you are a person in need of these docs, or maybe there are some future consultants, Coda experts who are gonna take knowledge out of these videos. I'm happy to share, and I'll be glad if this market of Coda services grows. So yeah, that's why this cannot be cheap, because you're putting all this care, all this consideration, all this experience into making it good and making it to last. But again, it seems like this whole video is just, yeah, me talking a lot. I'll perhaps tell everyone to just watch it on double speed. There's not much building here. Okay, we are over the limit and it bugs me a lot. We can delete 4 objects and maybe a few more. We can combine some folders, but again, I don't want to. And I keep remembering about things that I want to talk, and I'm talking about them and time goes. Yeah. So we have things like that. And yeah, so yeah, grouping and sorting uh, and reassigning tasks to someone. So enter project name. Let's also have an enter project description. And it's not a long name, it's a normal name. Project description. and the button should, the validation is the same, the project description is optional. VB, okay, no, this is tasks, project name, description, this row, enter this row, enter project description. Yeah. So again, create some blog. Add project. Added the tasks. Yeah, why did I add that description after all? I wanted to, just for the reason of selecting some description here, because I don't want row IDs to show up in here, and we kind of need to have something there. Add new project, it's gonna be YouTube channel. All these videos on recording. And oh wow, I did that again. I just clicked add new item. I don't want to just click add new item. We need locking here. We need a paid tier to set locking to prevent adding new rows, just like that. So delete a row. And for tasks, we also need to include a button here to add a task right to this project. So we have an add a task button here, but we can also have one here. And again, I can like do a jump cut, but I guess you can already see, no jump cuts. I'm trying to teach you things. So there's the add a task that uses an entry from show project here. Instead of that, in DB projects, I will have a button to add. I'll put it somewhere closer to the tasks. Okay, let's stamp all tasks again. And yeah, when we create a project, we want these tasks that were just created to be stamped. So ideally, we do have a button here, a separate button, because we want to click it more often. We don't need to click it for all rows, but we want to stamp tasks, to update tasks each time we either add a task or we add a project and we generate all those starter tasks. So stamp tasks. And the action here is this row, modify rows, tasks stamp to become is copied from tasks. And actually what we can do now, we have this formula for fill, and whenever we, okay, so whenever we add a project, right, yeah, add a project. We want to already at this point, we add a log, we add a template, we all add all template tasks, and now we can here created project stamp tasks. So whenever we create a new project, actually, and same for add a task. So we add a task to a, yeah, don't forget to add a filter here to show nothing. We just created a task for a project, for select a project, and now we can have created task project stamp tasks. So refresh, recalculate the tasks there. And at this point, now we have our project. Let's just create a new project again. Um, so we have a YouTube channel, we have Patreon campaign. I added a project. It stamped the tasks, and it already stamped the tasks. So here the tasks, and here are our tasks stamped. And at this point, we don't need the tasks column at all. I mean, we can just unhave this formula, because right now this formula, what it recalculates every time we either add a project or every time we... So, okay, in our case, it doesn't happen that often, but imagine a situation where you are making thousands of rows. Like, it's not tasks perhaps, but it's something else. It's maybe checklist items, it's maybe, I don't know. So it's something else, right? And you're generating records in some table, and then you have some summaries. For instance, you're generating, I don't know, transactions, financial transactions, and there's like 1,000 happening a month, and you want to have a table of monthly summaries, like how many were spent, how many were received, the balances, etc. So each time there is a transaction, the whole column is going to recalculate, because Coda doesn't know where it needs to update the filter, where the new added row or changed row may affect this filter, the result of this filter. So every time you add a row, it's going to recalculate everything. And maybe you need to only have these summaries once a month. You don't care that they are up to date at each moment when you add a row, that the summaries are correct. You only have to look at them once a month. So stamping is a very powerful technique for that. You get rid of the column formula, that I call them live formulas. You get rid of a live formula that recalculates on each change, and you make basically a recalculation, a manual process. So one needs to click a button to actually run this recalculation. So that's how you can get rid of that. You delete the formula, you delete the tasks column altogether, and instead of that, in stamp tasks, instead of reading from another cell, you are just running that filter, and whenever you, let's say perhaps you delete this item, I don't know, do retrospect, no. I mean, you delete it in the database, actually. Well, delete row everywhere. You stamp tasks, and it updated the selection here, the input. I call these input cells. So there are formula cells and input cells. Formula cells are recalculated, input cells are written into. Either manually you do this, you update the values here, or you can update them with a button. And so we can first we can check whether it's, well, orphaned item. I mean, it's just removed from a project instead of deleted, but also this is just one. We didn't need it here because we don't have many projects, we don't have many tasks, we don't add them often. It's just, again, it's not so much a starter template anymore as it is an illustration piece. So I'm explaining stamping here. So I'm still gonna display tasks. I'm gonna, now that we have this long names, short names, I can overwrite the column name with some label, arbitrary, just tasks. And I'm gonna, of course, hide the project team responsible assigned to as inputs, and I'm gonna show the assigned to, well, status first. Assign a team responsible, assigned to, and there's gonna be a perhaps a reassign button or something. So yeah, I have that, and that. The status is shorter, the task is perhaps longer, and I need a button to, so, well, right now I should hide the add row button, but even so, do we have the add row button? No, we don't have the add row button. So in a way, it's similar. There's no filter, of course, and yeah. So that's our tasks now. And if I delete it, it's just the reference removed, but the row still exists. So in a way, we didn't delete the row, we just deleted the reference in a way. And again, we need to perhaps build some maintenance over that to keep track whether we don't have some discrepancy in our data, because these tasks, even if we delete it from there, they will still show up in here. So you need to either update your filters to not include the still has these. Oh yeah, I forgot to exclude the DB projects. Filter is hidden false project name, so it shows only the not hidden projects. And for tasks, it should only show tasks that again are not from hidden projects. Did I add that? Yeah, I did. So yeah, in a way, less human error here. But again, I did this just to show you that this is an approach that you can use. In our case, we didn't really need that because, well, just having the tasks formula to calculate it by formula, it's perfectly fine. What was I going to do here? Oh yeah, add a task. So I can just take this the same thing that opens a pop-up, but instead of taking the value of a project from here. Oh, and by the way, I updated these with labels, right? And I'm trying to insert it into so why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you notice that I'm mixing up? I'm trying to insert a text into what should be a lookup. So I'm doing a bad thing here. So if current flow show project count equals 1, then find a project otherwise a blank value. So that's the correct way to do this. And now we can make a multiple selection thing so that we can watch for tasks for multiple projects. We need to update our filter to use contains there somewhere. So show project is blank, or show project contains this for project. Yeah. This now works. Okay, let me think for a moment. Maybe, well, maybe part 7, or no, I'll get this finished. I just need something like 20 minutes and I need a short break, so a jump cut. Okay, back to the doc. So yeah, a few last pushes. The reassigning interface. So as you might have guessed, oh yeah, I forgot to add the add task button. So did I set it up already? So add a task. The action that I want to copy is this basically action from here. just that. Okay, it's task. Only that we don't need to, yeah, add a task. Let's say view, add a okay, it's a bad idea to have multiple things that are named the same. So select a project, and the project we don't need to go to jump through hoops here, is just this row, and activate. And let's include that button on this view here. Add a task, perhaps here below the table. No need for a label. Done. Yeah. Task deliver, and on the Patreon campaign, task title is well, do something else. Team responsible engineering assigned to Jonathan. Set due by some time. Add a task. Well, it jumped us again to the my tasks view. Maybe, well, there is no really a way to just close the pop-up without yeah, so there's no really a way to close the pop-up without setting the URL of something different, as far as I know. So in a way, perhaps you need, on your added task table, perhaps you need to have multiple buttons that will create a task and get you back into here, and another get back into this view, and then you have to make separate views and set these separately. Or alternatively, from these add a task button, you can have something like which URL or some sort of marker to store where we open this, where we click this from. So on your add a task table, you can have something like either a checkbox, for instance, or something else saying is opened from projects page, and then your manage project and tasks here is going to be set to false, I guess, but on the projects table it's gonna be set is opened, set to true. And then when that flag is set and you click on add a project, it gets you back on this page here. Open window format. If oh, oh no, not add a project. I'm editing a wrong button. Create a task. Gonna take me a while to get used to the if open from projects page, then open just a page with projects, otherwise open, highlight the row in the view on that other page. So yeah, my tasks, if we add a task from here, test project, test task, engineering Jonathan. Yeah, didn't highlight it unfortunately, but still. On manage project and task, when we add a task here, just opened this page basically again, maybe jumped a bit around the page, but yeah, the task is added here, and we in a way it didn't navigate us out of this page. So these are some navigation patterns that you can use to control what happens without actually making separate helper tables or something. Yeah, just as usual, all rows apply to task name, make it bold because, well, make it bold. And we need to reassign the task. Yeah, that's one of the things that's left. Reassign a task to a different team and assigned to. Then new page. Let me just, yeah, maybe make a short jump cut until I set it up. Okay, so yeah, I added a helper table, but basically I just copied the helper table, add a task, made it a reassign a task. So there's gonna be a task to reassign that's inserted in here. And we may also have a task name, so to be like a read-only value here. So there's going to be select team responsible assigned to. The validation is just checking whether the select team responsible is not blank. I've updated the is valid again for, we don't need, because we know that this is not going to be blank. So save a task. I added here a different validation, a different save changes label for a button, and I just realized that on logging entries I want to have the task reassigned, and I to know whom we reassigned it to. And also I want to, when the task is added, we can immediately select which team it was assigned to and what employee it was assigned to. So I need to update and add these two missing parameters to the add a task as well. So we have our create a task. We go update it first. So we have a log entry here on the message. So format project name. Then we need to have this row created task team responsible and team name. What was there? Why doesn't, oh yeah, team response, well, it's all, we already have the text here, right? So just like here we have project name, we can already use simply the project. And this row created task assigned to also a text, and we just take this, copy this message, because we're gonna use the same thing in reassign flow. So save a task. When we update an existing task, we don't need to restamp the value in projects, because we're just updating a row. We are not adding rows or deleting rows. The reference is already there. Remember, in the projects table we have the tasks column that is now stamped. It's not a live formula. So updates to references go through automatically. We only need to restamp if there's new rows that need to be added to the list of rows, or if there's deleted rows from that collection. So okay, object is well, this row task to reassign employee, and now for our message we update this message. So yeah, task to reassign task project team responsible and assigned to, and we know that it's open from project, so we just open the same page. There's no conditional in here, and there's nothing to format either, so we just open the static URL and delete the helper tables row. Yeah, team response. We modify the task here with team responsible and assigned to. We log, and and we are basically done here. And in add the task, I think again we also don't need to use the task URL. Oh no, we need, because we still use this in the format. Okay, so yeah, we need a reassign a task column here, the button to reassign. Assign a task, add row, task to reassign this row, activate. And perhaps we need to change the layout there. Mm. Whatever. Do we have something like a person and an arrow? Okay, let's have another, I think, person and a checklist and a check mark. Yeah, reassign. This now opens task to reassign. Let's maybe hide that one and show a read-only value, the task name here. Make it make it bigger. So we reassign it to management, Michael. Yeah, it's now management Michael. Estimate effort. Oh, and we should also, I think, preset this with existing data. So select team responsible is this row, team responsible, and so and assigned to is this row existing assigned to. And another thing that I usually would do, instead of setting these here in the reassign button, the one that opens the pop-up, I would also maybe have a button on the helper table. So we place the only so the only concern of this button is to put this row into the helper table, and then here there should be a button and task to reassign. We should have a button here to actually populate from I don't know, insert from edited object. So populate this row from edit object, and that's where that logic should belong, because whenever you maybe you add something to this form, there's gonna be a reassign, and maybe reassign to a different week or to a different date. You don't want to go over all places in your doc where you are opening a pop-up for this for editing the task. So let's say it's a generic edit a task pop-up, and you don't know what you're gonna place in there. You want to have that button that populates the. So in other places of the doc, all that you want to be concerned with is that you open a pop-up where you insert that task to reassign. But then it should be the concern of the helper table to actually populate, to set all the fields to some initial state based on that inserted button. So that's what we're gonna do here. This row, modify rows, select team responsible is task to reassign team responsible, and select and assign to is this row, task to reassign assigned to. And then in our manage project and tasks, in this reassign button, all we need to do is, well, we run actions, reassign a task, add row. We need to then, well, we need to make multiple things then. We need to store on our project that we just opened a row to do something with that project. Because yeah, we need to have a handle to that row that we just created to activate. So yeah, in a way, yeah, it's easier to just keep these here, but it's also less maintainable because, as I said, when you have that added task button, let's say in different places that you open a pop-up, you don't really want to go back and forth updating the other buttons that are outside your view here. So you add a column here, and then you have to go elsewhere to update a button. You don't want that. You want to do this right here in this very table. So yeah, nothing else. You don't have no other choice than have this. Either you have this, you store this into this table, the reference to a recently opened row, or actually on your helper table to prevent multiple users from stepping on each other's toes, you can have something like a reference to a user or reference to a flow. And I usually have a reference to a flow. So, and maybe I even make that a handle. So when you open a row, here, so you run actions, you reassign a task, add row, flow, current flow, and that's how you know that this is a row added by you and not someone else. Then from reassign a task, filter flow equals current flow, last, populate this row, and then you reassign a task, filter again, flow equals current flow, or you can actually make a with name out of it and then run multiple actions in it. So let's maybe last with name recent helper row. Run actions, recent helper row, populate this row, recent helper row, activate. Let's see if this works. So we want to reassign plan out execution. Yeah, that's what I said. With this row, not with name, not always works, unfortunately. So what we can do is, yeah, we need to copy that for now. Populate this row, and now take this thing once again. Activate. Yeah. Don't forget to hide the alert. So yeah, we set the, and there is also another thing that you can do, just so that you don't run this twice. You can first activate, because when you can add a row and activate both in the same action basically, and then just find that row that was just created and activated and populate and make it populate. We can see that these things are updated. Well, we see the blinking, right? Because it first opens a pop-up and then updates the values. So not super nice, just maybe easier. Let's do it the way we did it first. So we populate the row and we activate. So that's, now it's nicer. It takes a bit longer to open the pop-up, but it opens it already. Nothing blinks before our eyes. Everything's pre-configured for us to go here and change perhaps engineering to product management and Jonathan to Michael. And actually here, that's what I was talking about in the perhaps the first part when I was saying about not using people's columns, or the second part, I don't remember actually. Now this is where in your save a task, that's where you're gonna actually, now if you need notification that the task was assigned to someone, that's where you will put a notification, a manual notification. So you reassign the task, you should have on your, like, you should have a message that message assigned. And well, let's take our log. Let's add it to our someone just assigned a task in project to you, and the parameters here are employee task name, project name, and in our button on reassign a task table, actually, to think of it, when you create a task, you also want, if there's a user, you want to have that. So before moving elsewhere, if assigned to is not blank, notify assigned to code a user, otherwise no operation, and assign them with a formatted message task. Reassigned, assigned, doesn't matter. Template, who did the change is I guess the current user, because that's what we're using here, right? Or actually current employee name. The task is created task created task project, and we take the same action and we read the assigned to, I guess, not from this form but from created task assigned to, because that's just cleaner, because we kind of offload the responsibility of holding the data from this row to the created task. So now created task is in a way our source of truth, and we should read from our source of truth. Just doesn't matter because we just took a value from here and copied it in there, but it's more of a, you know, of an ethical thing to read from a source of truth. So yeah, copy that and reassign and put the same logging piece. The notification piece is here. So if this row task to reassign is not blank, update all the references, and as usual, don't forget to text, and here don't forget to text. Yeah, it's okay. DB flows, who's me? Jonathan, yeah, don't forget that I'm an admin. Let's go and reassign some tasks to Jonathan. So we have allocate time box, engineering Jonathan Save changes. And let's wait for me to receive that notification in this doc. Oh yeah, there it is. So yeah, notified you with Jonathan just assigned the task allocate time box in project code tricks blog to you. Yeah, so the notification is sent even though we are not really depending on our people column. All right. This is done. What's left is grouping and sorting. And I'm honestly wondering if I should have that or I should not, or I should just do it very, very quickly. I'll take another short break and finish that thing. Okay, last push. So sorting and grouping. So let's start with grouping. And if you remember, I actually, again, on the Coda community, I had this trick documented well. Sort, sort group with external controls. So basically the idea there is that I create a separate column for groups and I group on that column. And I create two separate columns for view only let me open it in the play view mode play to be able to see the formulas. Yeah. So I have two columns for sorting, ascending, sorting, descending. Let me show these columns here. And when I say sort by item, then I change values on that column itself. And when I'm using the descending column, then I'm keeping the ascending column blank, but descending column, I'm copying the value from the column that I'm selecting. And I only have a defined a list of columns to filter, and I need to always specify them in the formula, and in this case in one formula, in another formula, to choose what to sort by. So that's how you can do it. Or you can have also there's you can have this in one place, but then you can have rank that changes either ascending or descending, but that's just another thing to calculate on this. This I believe is a more performant way of doing this. And group, again, just based on what's selected in the group by controls, we copy either the item or the month or whatever, and that's how we control the values for the group column. And then group column just regroups itself when it sees changed values in there. So we can apply the same logic to our doc. We want to group on, let's say we want to create a separate column group. We want to group on the left on that. Right now it's blank, but now we should have group by and make it just a drop-down list. And let's say we want to group by either project, not a formula, just labels, on project, status, team responsible, and assigned to. And also we could have something like priority, task priority, and maybe it's a nice thing to have actually, the task priority. But let's add task priority, right? Because why not? We have scale priority. And another thing that we can have, well, I'm just adding things to it, so maybe it's not a good idea. Assigned to and team responsible, I kind of have a feeling that it just takes up so much space here, horizontal space, that I'm thinking that, okay, I'm gonna perhaps add priority in here, right? So Maybe in a way we should also have due by, because we are not really using it anywhere. So like I want to put in so much information, so both the priority and due by, and no, let's not use priority, and let's just forget that we have that column. Okay, we already have due by, and we want to maybe use a due by date instead of the priority. Let's use a due by date, and we'll copy the date into our group. So yeah, we have, in a way, we have here a list, right? So yeah, let's use that. Let's use this in our group. So we will have a switch, right? So if current flow group by switch, we can use a switch instead of a switch if, because we can, well, basically we're just selecting values, right? So we are depending on values here. So if it's blank, or it's gonna be our default value, all tasks, well, all my tasks, or well, all tasks by everyone. Let's actually do that, why not? Concatenate all tasks by current flow, show assigned to, what's the name of the column? Switch one blank, otherwise all tasks by everyone, all tasks by my team, all tasks by just me. Okay, that's awesome. We can even hide the title here. So all tasks by everyone, all tasks by my team, all tasks by just me. That's if group is not selected. So that's what's gonna be displayed. Well, let's show the title, because, well, why not? And the handle, let's have it to lowercase. Yeah. And then if group by is a project, we just copy this row project. If status, we copy this row status. Let's see how it looks like. It looks like a pill. So instead of the status, we copy the status. So it's a text to do, right? And are all tasks to do, right? So okay, we have two done tasks. They now are displayed in to do done. Also, perhaps the status should be to text, because we want to get rid of that gray formatting in there. Yeah, so it just takes some twiddling to get that applied. If it's team responsible, and again, you can also, just like with show assigned to everyone, just me, etc., you can also use a separate table for these options, because if you want to rename the options, you don't want to go and update this formula, right? So that's also something that you may want to do a separate table. Let's just not do it here, because, well, you already know how to do that. It's wasting time, and well, we are well out of our quota already, so let's not create extra tables. Just remember that you can do that. Remember that we've done that with the everyone, just me, etc. And you can do totally the same thing with the group by, sort by columns. So team responsible, we take the team responsible, assigned to, we take the assigned to value. What else do we have? Team responsible works, assigned to, let's say if it's assigned to, if blank not assigned to anyone, and due by date, it's due by to date. We strip the yeah, not sure how it's sorted. It's not sorted, perhaps it's just, yeah, using the values that it counters. Also to date, here, blank, a to text. Oh well, no, not text, just, yeah. So yeah, grouping now works. The order of groups is undeterministic, and there's really no much way to force group sorting. There's a trick that allows you to, for instance, if you want to groups done, to do, etc., to appear in specific order. So let's say we have due by, let's maybe, can we change that? We cannot change it here because it's read-only, but let's show all the, so yeah, reset the filters to everyone, group by nothing. Oh, don't forget to update the reset. Let's also have group by empty. Let's see, tasks for everyone. Do we have overdue tasks? Let's make some task an overdue task, huh? So we have overdue tasks, and let's have a reopen task. So yeah, group by status, and we want to do reopened done, overdue. So we want done to be last, right? What we can do is that in our task statuses, and I'm recording, right? I can have something like a sort hacked value. So here's gonna be our order, which is this row. Well, no, let's not calculate it. So let's show overdue tasks first, to do task, reopened tasks second, other to do tasks third, and done tasks fourth. And we will construct our label to include non-printable characters that come before any other printable character. So there's this, I explained it, I recorded a trick on that. So if you look into the ASCII table, and this is the encoding, and it doesn't matter if you're using Unicode, which Coda uses, or the front end uses. So, or if it's Unicode or any other encoding, the first 127 symbols are the same in all coding tables. So basically each letter has their code, right? So every letter is saved as 1 byte or 2 bytes, but basically as a numeric value, ultimately. And well, you can see that all the letters that we are typing, all the characters, they usually start from 32, from the 32nd one. Space, then some punctuation, then some numbers, some more punctuation, then the capital letters, small letters, and all other languages are outside of these 127. That's in the Unicode data set, or that's in the next one. So, well, I'm not here to teach you history of computer science, but well, what's important is that there's this range of the first 32 symbols from 0 to 31 that are unprintable. They historically were used to move a cursor here and there, or to tell another computer, a receiving side, that it's an end of a line. For instance, the 0 was usually a string terminator, meaning that there are no more characters belonging to this text value. Here's the backspace, horizontal tab, the tab is 9, the new line is 10, etc., etc. The thing is, most of these will crash Coda or put it into the infinite loop. The only thing that will not put it into infinite loop is the carriage return, which is still historically used in Windows machines. So the new line on Windows is not just the 10th, but it's a sequence of new line and carriage return. So NR or RN, actually the first it goes the carriage return, then the new line. So Coda kinda allows putting character 13 on the text. And well, what happens when you put 0, 1, then 0, 0, 1, then 0, 0, 0, 1? So which one is gonna be sorted first? The one with the most zeros in the beginning, right? So like, let's say it's, I mean alphabetically, it's, let's say it's A, or it's, I mean it's B, or AB goes before B, right? AAB goes before AB, AAAB goes before AAB. So the more symbols we put before any like alphabetically higher symbol, this way we can affect the way that the texts are sorted alphabetically. So the way to hack this is to apply as many character 13, repeat as many times as there's order, or we can have reverse order, because the more characters, and we have to sort descending on these actually. So let's say it's not order, it's more of a, well, priority. So the biggest priority, the fourth one is, well, priority, let's say bigger, better, bigger, higher. Overdue is 4, to do is 2, reopen is 3, done is 1. So we apply this as many characters and then concatenate to this our status text. And that's gonna be our hacked our label. You cannot see this, but there's actually 4 characters before the letter O, and that's why when we now sort this ascending, we get overdue, reopen, to do, done, right? 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's how we can actually, by using a status, not just the status to text, but sort hacked value, and then applying sorting on our group. That's how we get overdue items sorted above everything else, then reopen, then to do, and finally in the end the done items. So yeah, projects, we just sort them everything alphabetically, but that's a trick for you. You can apply this to basically any text label, right? So these are the ones that are interesting. So yeah, it's the beginning of the day, so it's already overdue, but it's for the today, tasks for today, right? So 11 p.m. that's still something that's due. Well, so that's that trick for you. And now we want to be able to sort items within each group, and sort within groups by, and we just do the same. We can have some, well, what should we sort by? Let's think what makes sense for us to sort by. Again, maybe well, due by I don't know, project, well, status and project, I guess, because, well, assigned to, etc., it's sort of just, you can see that already. So yeah, And do we actually need ascending, descending? I don't know. Let's just sort by, well, ascending, just like we do with groups. So we just create one column. The sort column is going to be a hidden one. And as usual, we do the current flow. Sort within groups by, switch. And the blank value will be a blank value. But if it's status, then we take current flow. We take the status sort hacked value. If it's project, then we take the project, this row project. Well, when we say status, we mean this row status, right? So just project. And when we, what else do we have? What else have we got? So due by status project is fine, and due by, we just copy the due by. And we sort on that ascending. So due by status project, nothing. And we hide this column because sorting still applies even if we hide the column, it still applies on the table. So we group by project, but sort by status. So reopened, overdue first, done last, right? We group by status, but sort by due by. So the ones that are earlier, they are, well, we group by status. What happened? Why to do are the first one, the first ones. So let's group by status. Oh yeah, because, well, we've created sorting through a column, it resets sorting on the group. We need to keep sorting both on the groups, and doesn't matter in which order, because these are basically groups are only their order is affected by groups before that, and sorting of all the non-grouped columns only applies within each group. So sorting on groups kind of overrides sorting within the groups. So yeah, okay, we have our we group by status, and within status we sort by project, we sort by due by, we sort by whatever. And this is a very important pattern because you should not let your users go and tweak the controls. You should lock your tables and only let your users use these and by the way, user-specific controls, because if I now open this page in some as a different user, right? So I'm looking at this page as what now? Oh yeah, I copied the docs, so that's what's happening. Let me just quickly share it with me, myself, and I, or just me. So these controls are user specific, right? So we have poll number 1, looking at projects grouped by status, sorted by due by, and we have poll number 2, looking at, again, tasks by everyone, but grouped by project, sorted by status, perhaps, right? So this allows two people to look differently at the same view and group them, have them grouped differently and have them sorted differently. So that's what it's all about, right? That's what we were working towards. Yeah. Yeah, I think one last thing that I want to add, we are already hitting like 2 hours into our video, and I don't know how much of the Disk space I've left. I should buy myself a new either a hard disk drive or an SSD. One last thing that I wanted to do. So remember I told you that I think this takes already too much space. So one more thing that I often do, I combine things together. So again, I can use a template for that, or I can use or I can simply use the some column, just a formula to combine multiple pieces of data together to put more vertical. Let's make it more vertical. Let's make it like take more space vertically, but have it more condensed together. So save some horizontal space. So I can have something like concatenate team responsible team, or read from a team actually, or most likely I'll have these deleted. So in a way it's bad that I used these columns in our some, I guess, the logging tables. I guess I'll just have them deleted soon and replace them with assigned to. So okay, let me just do this already. Well, yeah, I just delete them. I'll have this assigned to team responsible so we will have something like, yeah, concatenate this row team responsible team if assigned to it is blank, then nothing, concatenate nothing, otherwise concatenate character 10, which is a new line, and with some color is going to be some sort of a grayish color, A0, 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 assigned to name. And this color, you've guessed what I'm gonna do with it. So yeah, engineering Jonathan, just engineering, or not that, I'll have it something like color. I'll still show if assigned to is blank, then NA, otherwise assigned to name, and I don't need the inner concatenate because I'm already concatenating it here. I'm still using either the NA or the name here, so yeah, sales NA, not assigned, Jonathan, or actually we can have this NA, only the NA can be so even make it lighter a bit. C0, 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 NA, and Jonathan, let's make him bold. NA, Jonathan. So that's what we're gonna show. We're gonna show assigned to. Yeah, now we have 2 lines per task. It takes more vertical space. We can see fewer tasks, right, in our project. And just like that, we can combine a project and a task in a single field. So that's up to you how you so yeah, that's up to you how you make the best out of your screen estate. Either you put more columns and maybe your team has wide screens and you don't have to scroll left and right, and you make it more compact on the vertical side. Or if you are very constrained like me in your vertical space, you can combine things together like that, make them visually appealing, so that it's still scannable. You can see that, okay, this is assigned to someone, this is not, so that, well, it's more visually appealing. It's a good idea to keep, when you have 2 lines per task, to keep it uniform, not because it's easy to scan, right? You see equal intervals between like statuses or whatnot, so it's easier to scan than if you had items of different heights, so keep that in mind as well. That's also a good user experience. Yeah, instead of team responsible, we now have to use team responsible team, and if instead of assigned to, we now have to use assigned to. Actually something like if assigned to is blank, then an A otherwise assigned to name. So maybe in retrospect it was a mistake deleting those columns, because that's where I could put this information and reuse it there or here. Also, maybe it's better to use it in a different way. Not if it's not blank, then it's name, otherwise it's not assigned. I guess we also, in a way, need to fix our sort column, which we'll do in our projects table. It doesn't have hidden columns. Tasks table now has hidden columns. Let's show them, because we don't want to have hidden columns, right, in our base tables. So assigned to is going to be somewhere here, and our sort column, where it is. Okay, it doesn't use anything that's breaking it. Let's check our logging, our formulas for logging. So yeah, we don't have team responsible. It's team responsible team. We don't have assigned to. It's assigned to name, and I guess we'll have to make the same change in our reassign a task UI. So yeah, it's a bad idea to depend on these read-only columns whenever you're logging. You should keep in mind that at any point you may want to delete them, clean them up, and then you have to go over and check your buttons, or wait until someone sends you a message, hey, hey, whoever, this button is now not working. Please take a look at our project, and hopefully you still remember what's going on in that project, and it's not like something that happens. So yeah, in a way, project name, again, let's not depend on those read-only things. And same here. Project name. Yeah. Should we test it, or will you test it already? Okay. So yeah, now we have our, in a way, we have a nice UI. Well, as nice as it can get. Maybe we also want to change here some display, make it like January 31. So more compact, maybe. We don't need a year here, right? We know that it's this year. We are not planning that far ahead. Manage project and tasks. So again, we have a status assigned to. We can now afford to have a column for due by. Let's maybe name it to set due by. And when you lock this table, then you will perhaps have some extra estate. I mean, it will, let's unwrap it so that, yeah. when you log this page, hopefully it will allow you to, it will hide this ugly scroll bar because you won't be able to add new columns to it. It will just, yeah, take as much space as there is. Maybe you may need to make it yet a bit more compact, but at some point you will see that scroll bar gone. Yeah, that is our dear starter template, which is not a starter template anymore. How much are we over our doc? 59 objects. Okay, let's say I delete that, I delete that, I delete that, I delete that. So it should be 55. We can get rid of the column of the folders, and then we will be within our limits. So that's, maybe I'll make a copy of this doc for the free plan where I'll get the folders deleted, and I'll keep this one and I'll move it to one of my paid, my paid workspace, just to, so that you have it as it is, because frankly I don't want to delete any component that we have in this doc, because it all looks nice and fits nicely, and well, it's a good example to follow. I tried to, well, maybe I went overhead with some things, like maybe with the tasks that are stamped. I may have gone overboard with yeah, the tasks that are there, but I wanted to show you this. So now one more thing, again, I want to really thank all of my patrons for your support. For those who haven't yet checked out my Patreon, please go to patreon.com/codatricks, because I'm posting some content there. It's not much yet, but I'm working on that. By the way, tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC, there's gonna be a secret live stream for patrons only, where I'll take this doc, the template doc. I'll strip it off all the things that I've built that should not be on the starter template. I mean, yeah, as I said, I tried to use it as a starter template for myself and had to delete everything basically before I could add more things to it. So it wasn't super helpful. I was basically starting from scratch, except that I had maybe a few pages already. So I'm gonna host a secret live stream for patrons only, where I'll take it and in a live video, just like I'm recording these are basically live videos. I'm just taking pauses sometime to, well, blow my nose or something. And I'll make a true starter template, and that starter template will be patron only, will be exclusive. I'll share it exclusively with my patrons. So if you have a chance, go check it out. If you become a patron before the live stream goes, you can go and request other things that I haven't included them in this video, in this series. Maybe something that you'd like to see in the starter template. I know that I haven't touched crossdock at all here, and it was a deliberate choice because crossdock is a different beast, and there's going to be a separate video on that, or a series of videos on that. I wanted to keep it a bit simple, right? So without using crossdock, without going into that territory. But yeah, and I also saw a question from one of my patrons, Brano, asked me, how do I plan out databases, schemas in advance? How do I make tables? Well, I don't draw any graphs, that's for sure. I'm just adding whatever I feel should be added whenever I feel it should be added. So mostly I know in advance what concepts I'm operating with in my doc, so I know what tables to create beforehand, and then when I need some helper tables, or I need some join tables, something that, let's say, something that's crossing, let's say, a task and a person. Let's say a task is assigned to 5 people, and we need to And I know that there's that we need to store how much time each person spent on that task. So we will have to then create a table of tasks and people, where one row will be a row for a specific task, a specific person. So 5 people in a task, there's going to be 5 rows: person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, person 5, and each of them then now has their own entry for the data. So this one spent 5 hours, this one spent 2 hours, this one 3 hours, and so on. So I add that as I build out my doc, and Coda makes it rather easy to re-schema things on the go. And again, I'll probably record a separate video on that, on how to rescheme your doc more easily. But for now, this is all. This was part 6 and part 7, because this is 2 hours already. I hope that the audio is not screwed up. I'll only know if it's screwed up after I hit stop and it makes a file on my disk and I check it out, and I either go to bed happy, or I go to bed sad that the audio is again screwed up and I cannot do anything about it anymore. Yeah, that was fun and exhausting and a lot of information, and thank you if you were bearing with me for all this time. Thank you so much. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I see you in my next videos. Cheers.